Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on in the building. I'm your host, HerbMan. Go tell somebody, your homie is on, man. This is the most important video of all videos. So I hope you're all tuned in. No matter where you are across the world, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what is your skin color, this is for all of humanity. This is for all of mankind. This is my greatest work I've ever done. Greatest work I've ever done. So I just want to say, man, go tell somebody to go tell somebody. If you can't get them, please share this video. What are we talking about today? Healing for us all. We all are headed toward a designated time, a designated end. And a lot of us are figuring out or trying to figure out how to circumvent these diseases and ailments, and we're not quite sure. Every time we want to go to this diet, something else comes out new. Every time we think that this is okay, something else tells us that it's not. And so through all of the years of research that I've done, starting from my religious and spiritual pursuit, all of that has led me to this point today. And I just wanted to share with you guys my findings to try to simplify what is the cause of our issues and what is the remedy for our issues. So before I get started, I want you to remember two things. Temperature and food are going to be the main reasons why we can't get healthy and why we can't be healthy. And then I'll tell you why those two things are so critical. So with us getting started, I want to kind of get you into the program here so that you guys can understand step by step what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my screen right now. You guys, please let me know if you get it. I'm going to try not to be long, but this is the truth. So bear with me. Again, this is Healing for Us All, simplified, okay? I'm your host, HerbMan. My company is Leaf of Vital Essentials. Our website is www.leafofvitalessentials.com. All right. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about healing from God. And when we're talking about healing from God, we're talking about what was already here before us. Maybe this is the thing that even our ancestors did not put together. Even they did not know or could not circumvent the situation based on the knowledge that they knew. So what I want to do is bring it to you in a way that we can all understand it. But it's not healing from man. It's not healing from drugs. It's not healing from this or that. It's healing from God. It's healing from the temperature, the climate, and what the climate yields. And we are a part of the climate. We are a part of Earth. And we have indigenous climates that take us farther back than we could ever understand. And so today we want to get into that. So I want to start off by talking about your mitochondria. A lot of people have heard of mitochondria. And I want to make a brief description of what it is from a cellular level. Mitochondria is an organelle found in large numbers in most of our cells, in which the biochemical processes of respiration or what we call separation or division and energy production occur. So this is where cells divide. But this is also, too, your powerhouse. This is where your cells get energy and give energy to you. Okay? And this has a double membrane. The inner layer being folded inward to form layers of Christi, okay? Or what some people may call the Christo or the Christ in us, okay? Follow me on this one. Now, some of you may say, well, what has this got to do with healing? Okay. First, we need to understand how mitochondria was even inherited to us, okay? Mitochondria is a part of our DNA, and it is the small secular chromosome found inside mitochondria. So that you have mitochondria, and then you have the DNA. So now we're getting somewhere. First, I showed you about the mitochondria, but now I want you to understand that this is part of your DNA. And what do we know DNA as to be? Our makeup, our structure, everything that makes us up, okay? And so these organelles are found in cells, have often been called the powerhouse of the cell. The mitochondria and thus mitochondrial DNA are passed only from mother to offspring through the egg cell. Now that's very important, because when we talk about who was the first people here, who was the first creation here, it had to be of a female variety because of the mitochondria that is inside of our DNA. See, when you go into a cellular level, you realize that these cells are called daughter cells. They're not called son cells. They're called daughter cells. And when you go deeper into your scientific research, you realize that you have to have these female organelles or female organisms in order to survive, or even have any type of survival for any species for that matter. The more female cells and the more female species you have to a certain thing is the most likelihood of that survival of that thing. Even when you're looking at organizations that do your ancestral DNA, like 23andMe and Ancestry.com and African Ancestry, they go off of your mitochondrial DNA, because that goes the furthest. It goes further than your father's DNA or your paternal DNA. So they use this in order to tell you where you are actually from. Now, that's why this is important, because a lot of us are not in the same climates that our DNA structure is immune to, or prone to, or originates, or indigenous of. So if your DNA mitochondria goes all the way back to, let's say your mother, your grandmother, great grandmother, your great grandmother, this goes all the way back hundreds and thousands of years in your DNA, who you are today. So what region of the world did your mitochondria come from? It may have come from the polar climate. It may have come from the tropical climate. It may even come from the temperate climate. Why is this all important? What does this have to do with healing? Well, the earth has three main climate zones: the tropical, the temperate, and the polar. Your mitochondrial DNA is a roadmap that will get you in one of these particular areas. Now, what I'm saying is that your DNA is going to be one of these three particular climate zones here. And there are characteristics that go along with these particular climates. As you see, if you're from the tropical area, then you're going to be in the green on this map. Now, that area only has two seasons: a wet and a dry season, or hot and wet. If you are in the yellow zone here, you're in the temperate climate. Okay, places like the USA and Europe and all of that, Australia, the South border of South America. Okay, some of these places are temperate climates. Therefore, you experience 4 seasons or moderate temperatures, and your DNA is exclusive for that. Now, it does not mean you cannot adapt to any type of climate. As humans, we are called adaptogens. We can adapt to whatever environment that we are in. But what is conducive to your optimal health? What is conducive to your optimal health? And on top of that, when you take in foods, when you take in climate that is not conducive to your indigenous DNA, your mitochondrial DNA, then there lies a disconnect in the communication there. So you're putting foreign climates and foreign foods from foreign climates in a body that is not indigenous to. Therefore, it causes a discommunication or miscommunication in your body. And now you have your mitochondria in the cell having to use foreign objects that it's not accustomed to keep you alive, to give you energy. And what is happening is we are formulating diseases because we are not in the proper climates and we're not eating the proper foods from those climates. Are you guys following me? So let's talk a little bit more about the climates. Look at the polar. People who are from Poland, people who are from these northern Russia and all these, New Zealand and all these particular places. You only got 2 seasons: cool summers, cold winters. Okay, and so there are foods that go with these particular climates. So now let's chop this up. If you are a person that has mitochondrial DNA in a tropical climate and you no longer live there, you have 2 issues. First of all, you have all your cells that are indigenous to a particular climate that is no longer in. In a tropical climate, you should not be in very, very rigid, cold climates. Okay? So if you are a dark-skinned person or you are whatever color person and you're from a tropical climate and you're in below freezing weather, that's not conducive to your makeup. That's probably why Black people don't like the cold. And it's probably why some white people do love the cold, because it's in your DNA. Okay? It's in your DNA. So how we make this simplified is just to understand the climates, the temperatures, and the foods. So in a tropical climate, you should not dip below 65 degrees because in the tropical climate, it stays hot. And the only other thing it does is get wet. So what is that telling me? That's telling me that I should maintain a certain temperature in my body. Okay. I should be eating warming foods, foods that heat up the body. And I also should be eating what is called wet foods. Wet foods are going to be things like fruits and vegetables. Okay. Everybody doesn't have to eat the same foods based on the mitochondrial DNA, based on your DNA, based on your indigenous. You have to understand what indigenous really means. So now a lot of us are suffering from conditions because we're not in our proper climate. How many Black people are suffering from vitamin D? But if you was in the tropical climate that was hot all the time, you wouldn't be suffering from vitamin D deficiency. Some of us are suffering from cancer. Why? Because we are eating things like vegetables when we should be eating things like meat, because it's in our DNA, because we come from a particular climate, like the polar climate. Okay? Got to get this understanding. This is for everybody. It don't matter what color you are. This is going to be for you. Okay? Now let's move further. What are we saying? So the tropical foods for people who are from the tropics, these are all of the foods that you should be eating. Black rice and raw sugar, bamboo, taro, ape, coconut, pandanus, yams, agave, vanillas, gingers, turmerics, pineapples. All of these foods, not only will they warm you up, but they'll also keep the body moist, right? Providing you with the right water that you need for your body. breadfruit, jackfruit, cassava, tamarind, carob jicama, amaranth greens, mountain apples, allspice, mango, oranges, lemon, limes, grapefruits. These are the foods of the tropical indigenous people. So most of your foods are nuts, grains, okay, and fruits and vegetables. Tropical people are not people who indigenously ate meat. They're not. They kept their bodies at a particular temperature, and they ate the foods that would keep them at that temperature to survive in those climates. What we are not doing today is we're not paying attention to the climate and its effects on our bodies, on our mentalities. So you can try to go toward particular diets, but without the temperature, without the climate, then you still won't get the optimal health that you can get. So what I'm saying is that a tropical person can start getting sick in a temperate climate. A tropical person can start deteriorating in a polar climate. A polar climate indigenous individual can start to deteriorate in a tropical climate. That's why white people don't need to be in the sun too much, because that's not in their DNA. They will start to deteriorate in that particular climate. Okay? So we got to understand temperature and diet is what's going to keep us healthy. Okay? Temperate foods. People who are indigenous to the temperate climates, the US and Europe, and all of these types of places. These are your foods: wheat, corn, oats and barley, rye, wild rice and onions and garlic, mulberries, hops, soybeans, chickpeas, lentils, mustard. See, a lot of us are eating other people's foods, and it's not making us any better because it's not particularly communicating to your mitochondrial DNA. It's not your indigenous food, and you're not living in your indigenous climate. So you have a lot of temperate people that come from Europe and all these other places that are living in tropical climates and wonder why they're getting skin cancer. They're eating tropical foods and wonder why they're getting cancer. Well, I'm eating fruits and vegetables. It's not indigenous to your DNA. We got to understand this concept. These climates will cause dis-ease in the body because it's not communicating with our mitochondrial DNA, with the mother of our nature. Okay? So now you also have polar foods. In polar climates, these are the meat eaters, because a meat-based diet is all you can have in the polar climates. There are only a few vegetables that can withstand the polar climates. Things like beets, turnips, spinach, kale. Now you hear these because you think these are healthy for you, tropical person. Swiss chard, mustards, and collards. Therefore, polar climate people. So now, if you are from polar regions, you should be eating meats and livestock and seafood, because that is indigenous to your mitochondrial DNA. Your DNA already knows how to communicate with the meats. It already knows how to communicate with the livestock and with the fish. So as a white person that loves the cold, if you eat a lot of meats, it'll keep you warm. So that's why you can withstand the cold, because you have the fats of the meats in your DNA. Your DNA knows exactly what to do with that, exactly how to maintain your body temperature with that. And that's why white people can be in the cold and we thinking, why is he out here with no pants and no shorts on, with no jacket on? is because they understand that they can eat certain foods and the DNA knows exactly what to do with that to where it looks as if they're not even bothered by the climates. But why is a black person now bundled up and not the white person? Because their mitochondrial DNA does not know how to accept that code. It is not an indigenous climate to the African descendant. That is an indigenous climate to the polar descendant. Okay? So this is your understanding so that you can understand where healing really comes from. So all you have to do now, anybody that is listening to me, you have to trace where you come from a mitochondrial DNA, from a ancestral understanding, right? And then you go and you start looking at foods that are indigenous to that climate zone and watch how your body uses that energy. Watch how your body use that food. Now, there's only one particular people on here that have meats in their diet. And those are people that come from the polar region. Now, go back to the temperate. When you're talking about temperate, you're talking about a moderate climate. It's not too cold or too hot. And this is a seasonal type of people. This is a seasonal type of food, okay? That means that you have 4 different seasons. You have winter, spring, summer, and fall. These people can eat food from that particular seasonal food. So when it's wintertime, they can eat what is winter and it will still be conducive to their DNA. It will still give them the optimal health, optimal energy that they need. If they start eating foods that come from summer, they will still be at optimal health. If they eat foods in the spring that are indigenous in the springtime to temperate climates, they're going to still be in optimal health. But with the tropical climate individual, you have to always understand that you have to stay in hot and humid climates. Your body temperature needs to always, or your body needs to always be in hot climate. And you need to always be understanding that you can eat foods that warm you up and keep your body temperature up. A lot of us African descendants, we know our grandparents as they get older, they keep the house real warm. And we never understood. You think it's for arthritis purposes and all of that, but they keep it warm because it's clicking back in. The mitochondrial DNA clicks back in, and warm is not warm to them, it's comfortable. How many of us know women that go to bed with the AC on, but you have so many clothes and so many covers on, and they say that's comfortable because it keeps the body at a certain temperature that is comfortable. Get what I'm saying here, people. It is simplified. Temperature plus diet equals optimal health. Learn what your indigenous climate is. Eat the foods from that indigenous climate, and you will see disease flee. Because you are putting in your body what the body has been designed to understand and communicate with. And this is the secret to healing. This is the secret to healing. What are our solutions? Our solutions is that we need to make sure that we're getting our daily value of our indigenous nutrition. Placing all kind of emphasis on the foods that we can intake throughout our life. But we also need to understand that if you are a tropical person living in a temperate climate, even if you change your diet, you may still have complications because of you being out of whack when it comes to your climate. So what I suggest is when you get into those areas that can produce a tropical climate for yourself that never drops below 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? If you're a temperate person, you need to get into a moderate climate. that will give you all 4 seasons. You don't need to be in the tropical climate where it's only hot, 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 and you don't need to be in climates where it's only cold, cold, cold. You need to be where there's all 4 seasons, because that is going to be optimal for you. Going to make you a strong human being. Your body will do the work itself once you get these 2 things down. Put my body in the right temperature, in the right atmosphere, and eat the foods that are indigenous to that atmosphere, and my body will do the rest. My body will do the rest. You will not even see sickness or ailments. This is what we're talking about. And this video is to raise awareness, because I don't want you guys to continue to keep getting confused with go left and go right and go straight and stop and go backwards. Because everybody's trying to sell you something. But nobody's trying to uncover the truth. And the truth is that as long as we're eating temperate foods in a temperate climate and you're a tropical person, you're destined for disease. And the truth of the matter is, as long as you're out of your indigenous zones and you're out of your and you don't really understand the foods as medicine and understand that whole understanding, then look, it doesn't matter how many herbs you take, it doesn't matter what the doctors tell you, there's nothing that they can do. So right now we have heart disease creeping up on us. And that's all because you're putting foreign objects in your body. And so there's no communication, and we're stuffing our body so much with this food that it's getting stored in fat cells and all this stuff that is just causing disease. We're not working out enough. Tropical people are not keeping their bodies at a hot, humid level. You're not eating the right types of foods that will warm the body up. You're not eating enough fruit that will give you the moisture and the wet that you need, the water that you need in your body. You're not eating enough of the vegetables that will give you the moisture that you need. If you are a white person, you may be eating vegetables and vegan diets, but you're not eating enough meat. Okay? And because you're not eating enough meat, then you may get sick when it gets cold, when you're supposed to withstand that cold. It's just like tropical people getting vitamin D when they're supposed to withstand the heat. But we run from the heat and get into some AC. And the white people are running from the AC to get into some sun. We're confused and we don't understand why we're dying so quickly. It's because we're out of our plum picking minds, because we're out of our plum picking environments. And we're taking on other people's foods and other people's traditions and other people's indigenous things that are not communicating with us on the inside, from the mitochondrial DNA, from the mother of your nature that takes you far back as man can know. That is still inside of you. That's why I showed you the mitochondrial cells. I wanted you to know that your indigenous cells are still inside of you. They're screaming, please put me in the right situation and I'll do the right thing by you. Your body is screaming this, people. And we're wondering what we can do. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can do a whole lot if you understand this concept. You can do a whole lot. So I hope that this was simplified for you. I hope that you guys get this. I hope that it's easy enough for you to understand that temperature plus food equals your health. Understanding your indigenous zones, your indigenous nature, your mitochondria, the mother of your nature, is still in you. And she's screaming, if you just give me what I know, I can show you more. I can do more for you in the body, in the mind, and in the spirit. I hope you guys get this. This is my greatest discovery, my greatest video I've ever done. There's really nothing more than this. Trace yourself. See where you're from. Eat those foods. and watch your health get better. I love you guys, man. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I'm your homie HerbMan. Till next time. Peace. Yes, sir. Bless you.